At some point in your life, you have been lost. Maybe it was in a forest or a city you did not know, or even just a building that was larger than you expected. Maybe it lasted 30 seconds. Maybe it lasted longer. But there was a moment, however brief, when you did not know where you were. And something inside you shifted. Not panic necessarily. Something quieter than that. A tightening. A sudden, focused awareness of your surroundings. A feeling that something needed to change immediately. That feeling did not come from nowhere. And the way your ancestors handled it, the way they handled each other when someone disappeared, reveals something profound about how human societies were organized long before maps, phones, or search parties ever existed. Let us start with what being lost actually meant for a hunter-gatherer group moving across an unfamiliar landscape. Separation from the group was not merely inconvenient, it was among the most dangerous situations a person could find themselves in. A lone human on open terrain had no realistic defense against large predators. They had no one to help carry water or food. They had no one to watch while they slept. The group was, in the most literal sense, the difference between surviving the night and dying. And both, the lost person and the group, they had separated from, understood. This anthropologist, Kim Hill, at Arizona State University, who has spent decades studying the Ake people of Paraguay, one of the most extensively studied forager groups, has documented something striking about how these communities respond to absence. When someone does not return when expected, the response is not passive. It is immediate and organized. Other group members begin tracking. They call out. They retrace likely routes. The search is not coordinated by a single authority. It emerges from the group collectively, driven by something that looks less like protocol and more like genuine urgency, because that urgency was real. The Ake, like most forager groups, operate on an intimate knowledge of their local landscape built up over years. Every member of the group contributes to a shared mental map, not a drawn map, but a living, constantly updated network of information. Water sources, terrain features, animal trails, and the most likely paths between them. When someone goes missing, this shared knowledge becomes the search tool. People move toward the places the lost person would most likely have gone. They look for signs, not because they were specially trained, but because tracking was woven into everyday life. This matters because it reframes something we rarely think about. In the modern world, a missing person triggers a formal response. Authorities, systems, protocols. For most of human history, there were no authorities to call. The response was entirely human. It was the people who knew the missing person, who knew their habits, their tendencies, their favorite routes, their state of mind that morning, who organized and carried out the search. And this required a level of social knowledge, of genuine intimacy with other members of the group that most modern people have with almost no one. But the most surprising part was not how the group searched. It was what the lost person needed to do. You might think the best thing to do when you are lost is keep moving, cover more ground, find a landmark, solve the problem through action. It feels right. It feels like taking control, but it isn't, not even close. Search and rescue researcher Kenneth Hill, who spent decades studying search and rescue operations in North America, found that continuing to move is the single most dangerous response a lost person can have. When people are frightened and disoriented, they walk. They walk faster. They cover more ground. And in doing so, they move further from the very people looking for them. The most effective thing a lost person could do, and the thing least likely to happen without prior knowledge, was to stop, stay in one place, make noise, make themselves findable in modern search and rescue. This is taught as a survival principle, but it is also, when you think about it, a deeply social one. Staying put requires trusting that someone is coming. It requires believing that you matter enough to be searched for, that the group will not simply move on. And here is what the evidence from forager communities suggests. They would not move on, not easily, not without exhausting the possibilities. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm at the University of Southern California has studied hunter-gatherer societies extensively, and one of his consistent findings is that these groups were deeply egalitarian. No one was expendable. Losing one person meant weakening everyone. The obligation to search was not delegated to anyone in particular. It was distributed across the whole group, emerging from a shared understanding that every member mattered. The lost person was not a burden. They were a gap, a missing piece of something that could not function properly without them. This may be why the fear of being lost carries a weight that seems out of proportion to the immediate danger in modern life. You can be lost on a well-mapped hiking trail with a charged phone in your pocket and a car park half a mile away, and still feel something close to dread, not because the situation is objectively life-threatening, but because something much older than your reasoning mind is responding to the feeling of separation from the group. The tightening in your chest when you realize you do not know where you are is not irrational. It is ancestral. It is a system that was calibrated for a world where separation and death were often the same thing. And on the other side of that fear, woven into the same ancient architecture, is something else. The pull toward the lost. The impulse that makes a parent run toward a child who has wandered from sight. The urgency that rises in a group when someone is missing. The refusal to accept that someone is simply gone. That, too, is old. That, too, is human in the deepest sense. When you were lost, even briefly, even safely, something inside you understood what the stakes once were. And when someone you love goes missing, even for a moment, something inside you responds the way every human group has responded for hundreds of thousands of years. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, finding one another was how humans survived. You go looking.